You're 37. You have a job that pays reasonably well, better than you expected at 25, not quite as much as you need at 37. You have a mortgage on a house you bought 3 years ago when the rates were already uncomfortable, but the alternative was waiting indefinitely. You have a car payment. You have a 401k that you've been contributing to since your early 30s, not consistently, not maximally, but something. You have $4,200 in a savings account that feels simultaneously like a lot and like nothing. You have 2 kids, or 1 kid, or a life that costs more than it did at 28 in ways you can feel every month, even when you can't quite itemize all of them. You are, by most external measures, doing fine. And yet, there's a Sunday night version of your life that looks different from the Tuesday afternoon version. The Tuesday afternoon version is busy, functional, moving forward. The Sunday night version opens a browser tab and types something you've typed before: average net worth by age, or how much should I have saved by 35, or am I behind financially, and then reads the results with the specific feeling of someone looking at a test score they already suspect isn't good. Maybe the number is better than you thought. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's close enough to the benchmark that you can't tell whether to feel relieved or concerned, which is somehow more unsettling than either clear answer would be. Here's what I know about that Sunday night feeling. It isn't weakness, it isn't ingratitude. It is the entirely rational response to moving through your mid-30s in a financial environment nobody fully prepared you for. With student debt that was supposed to be manageable, mortgage rates that were supposed to be lower by now, childcare costs nobody quoted you before you had children, and a retirement account that's growing but never quite fast enough to silence the question underneath everything else. Am I going to be okay? Today, I'm going to answer that question as honestly as I can, with the real data, the real benchmarks, and the real context that transforms a number from a source of anxiety into a starting point for a decision. Because that's what it is, not a verdict, a starting point. My name's William. Let's look at where you actually stand. First, what the data actually shows for the average 37-year-old in 2026. The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, the most comprehensive snapshot of American household wealth available, breaks net worth and savings data by age group. The most recent data, combined with 2026 market conditions, produces a picture that is simultaneously more encouraging and more concerning than most people expect. For the 35 to 44 age bracket, which captures the 37-year-old squarely in its center, the median net worth is approximately $135,000. The mean net worth is approximately $549,000. Those two numbers tell completely different stories, and understanding why is the first thing worth grasping here. The median is the middle number, the point where half of people have more and half have less. The mean is the average, which gets pulled dramatically upward by the relatively small number of households with very high net worth. When the mean is 4 times the median, it tells you that wealth in America is concentrated at the top in a way that makes the average, the mean, a misleading benchmark for most people's actual situation. The median is your real benchmark. $135,000 in net worth for the average American household between 35 and 44. Now, here's what that $135,000 typically looks like in practice. It is not $135,000 in a brokerage account. For most households in this age bracket, the largest component of net worth is home equity, the difference between what the house is worth and what's owed on the mortgage. The second largest is retirement account balances. Liquid savings and taxable investments typically represent a much smaller slice than most people assume when they picture net worth.
Retirement savings specifically, the number that matters most for your future. If net worth is the broad picture, retirement savings is the specific number that determines whether your future looks the way you're hoping it will. Fidelity, which manages retirement accounts for millions of Americans, recommends having approximately 3 times your annual salary saved for retirement by age 40. For the median household income of approximately $83,700, that benchmark is roughly $251,000 in retirement savings by 40. By 37, the proportional benchmark is approximately 2 to 2.5 times salary, roughly $167,000 to $209,000. The actual median 401k balance for Americans in the 35 to 44 age bracket, approximately $60,000 to $76,000, depending on the data source. That gap between the recommended benchmark of $167,000 to $209,000 and the actual median of $60,000 to $76,000 is the number most people in this age group need to sit with honestly, not with panic, with honesty, because the gap between where you are and where the benchmark suggests you should be is not fixed. It is a current condition with specific levers available to change it, and at 37, you have enough time left for the compounding math to do significant work if the decisions change now rather than in 5 years. What the average 37-year-old actually owns, the full balance sheet. Net worth is assets minus liabilities. To understand where you stand, you need both sides of that equation clearly. On the asset side, the average 37-year-old household in 2026 owns approximately the following: home equity of roughly $80,000 to $120,000 for those who bought before the rate spike, significantly lower for those who bought in 2022 or 2023 at peak prices with minimal down payments. Retirement account balances in the $60,000 to $76,000 median range, vehicle equity, typically modest and declining given current car market conditions, liquid savings. The Federal Reserve data suggests the median American in this age bracket has approximately $8,000 to $12,000 in liquid savings outside of retirement accounts. And for a growing subset, student loan obligations that are counted on the liability side and meaningfully reduce net worth. On the liability side, mortgage balance averaging approximately $280,000 for homeowners, student loan debt averaging approximately $37,000 for those carrying it, which at 37 is a significant portion of the population, auto loan debt, credit card balances. The cumulative liability picture for the average 37-year-old household is heavier than the asset side looks impressive. The net result, $135,000 median net worth, is technically positive, but for many households in this bracket, it is dominated by illiquid home equity and retirement savings that cannot be accessed without penalty for decades. The liquid financial position of the average 37-year-old is considerably more modest than the net worth number suggests. Income, what the average 37-year-old is actually earning. The median household income for Americans in the 35 to 44 bracket in 2026 is approximately $95,000 to $100,000. Individual median earnings for full-time workers in this group run approximately $58,000 to $65,000. Those are household and individual medians, the middle of the distribution. At 37, you are theoretically near the point in your career where earnings begin to accelerate meaningfully. Research on lifetime earnings curves consistently shows that income grows most rapidly between the mid-30s and mid-40s for most professional tracks, which means that 37 is not a fixed destination in earnings terms. It is, for most people, closer to the beginning of the high-earning period than the end. This matters for the retirement savings gap because the savings rate applied to a rising income over the next 15 years is more powerful than the current account balance suggests. The person earning $65,000 at 37 who reaches $90,000 by 45 and maintains a consistent 15% savings rate throughout will arrive at 55 in a dramatically different position than their current balance implies, provided the lifestyle doesn't expand to consume every dollar of the income growth. That last provision is where most people in this age bracket lose the advantage the income curve should provide.
The specific traps that define the financial position of the average 37-year-old. At 37, three financial dynamics converge in a way that is specific to this life stage and worth naming precisely. The first is the peak lifestyle inflation pressure. By 37, most people have established a social reference group, colleagues, friends, neighbors, whose spending patterns create a visible benchmark.
The house in the right neighborhood, the car that fits the professional image, the vacations that reflect the life stage, the private school conversation that starts earlier than anyone anticipated. The social pressure to spend at the level of the reference group is at its most intense in the mid-30s, and the income growth happening simultaneously makes the spending feel sustainable even when the savings rate it produces is not. The second is the mortgage and childcare squeeze. The 37-year-old with a mortgage and 1 or 2 children in childcare is navigating the highest fixed cost structure of their financial life. Childcare costs in most American metros now exceed $2,000 per month per child. Combined with a mortgage sized for 2 incomes, the margin available for retirement savings is thinner than the household income suggests. This is not a failure of planning. It is a life stage with a genuine financial structure that compresses the savings rate in ways that matter enormously in aggregate. The third is the decade of delay, the compounding years lost between 22 and 32 when most people weren't saving seriously. The person who started contributing meaningfully to a retirement account at 32 rather than 22 has lost 10 years of compounding on whatever they might have contributed during that period. At 37, they are 5 years into the recovery from that delay, which means the urgency of the next decade is higher than it would have been if the foundation had been built earlier. What the benchmarks actually mean for you specifically. Here is where I want to be direct about something most financial content gets wrong. The benchmark, 3 times salary by 40, $135,000 median net worth, whatever figure you're measuring yourself against, is a description of an average. You are not an average. You are a specific person with a specific income history, a specific expense structure, a specific set of decisions made and not made, and a specific number of years and earning capacity remaining. The benchmark is useful for one purpose: calibration. It tells you whether you're broadly in the range, significantly above it, or significantly below it, which tells you something about the urgency and magnitude of the adjustments available to you. If you're at or above $135,000 in net worth at 37, you are at or above the median for your age group. That is not a guarantee of adequate retirement funding. It depends heavily on your income, your retirement timeline, and your savings rate going forward, but it is a reasonable foundation to build from. If you're significantly below the median, in negative net worth territory, or below $50,000 with no significant retirement savings, the honest answer is that the next 5 years matter more than any other 5-year period in your financial life, not because 37 is too late, because the compounding math at 37, applied to the right decisions, produces outcomes that the same math at 47 cannot fully replicate. The window is not closed, but it is narrower than it was at 27.
What to do with this information right now. Specifically, 3 moves in order of impact. First, calculate your actual net worth today, not an estimate, the real number. Every asset valued honestly, every liability counted completely. Home equity based on a realistic current market value, not the Zillow number that makes you feel best. Retirement account balances from the actual statement. Liquid savings, vehicle equity based on what CarMax would actually offer, the real number. Write it down. Second, calculate your savings rate as a percentage of take-home pay, not gross income. Take home. What percentage of the money that actually arrives in your account is going to retirement, investment accounts, or liquid savings each month? If that number is below 15%, you have a specific lever available that doesn't require earning more. It requires directing more of what you already earn before lifestyle claims it. Third, if you have an employer match on your 401k that you are not fully capturing, fix that this week. Not this quarter, this week. The employer match is a guaranteed 50 to 100% return on contributions up to the match threshold. No other investment produces that return at 0 risk. Leaving it uncaptured at 37 is the most expensive financial decision available to someone in this life stage, and it is entirely reversible with one change to your contribution percentage in your HR portal. The anxiety that shows up at 37 is not irrational. The numbers are real. The gap between where most people are and where the benchmark suggests they should be is real. The compressed timeline between now and retirement is real. But anxiety without a specific response is just uncomfortable. The response, calculating the real number, fixing the savings rate, capturing the match, takes less than a week to execute and starts the compounding clock on a trajectory that looks meaningfully different in 10 years than the current one does. You asked where you stand. Now you know. The more important question is what direction you're pointing from here. You now know exactly where the average 37-year-old stands. The only question left is whether you're going to stay there or change the trajectory. Subscribe for a new video every week and drop your actual net worth range in the comments. No judgment, just data.